the meeting is this meeting is planned within the project, the east side of the stage, a est del palcoscenico, and it's a project funded by our Ministry of Culture. The project has as a lead partner Accademia Mediterranea dell'Attore in Lecce.
I'm sorry, Franco, maybe all of the people here, can we put it on mute? Dejan, staj se na mute zaradi звуциве, знаеш. Thank you.
Okay.
Ухаме да знам како.
Имаш едно црвено горе, као, ете го.
So we have many partners from Balkan countries and from Italian side. From Balkan countries are involved ITI from Skopje, from ATAC from Montenegro, Podgorica, 𝘘𝐻 from Albania, and from Serbia, Artistic Utopia in Belgrade, and so Macedonia, Montenegro, Albania, Serbia, and Kosovo, 𝗘𝐦𝗏 Multimedia. From Italy, we have Mittelfest as a partner, as well as Alibi, is an association from Tricase, Lecce, province of Lecce, and the other one is Malte from Ancona, and so as you know, the project we are planning a program of dramaturgical residency about the topic of climate change. So we will start the program of residencies on February with Sonia Antinori, the playwright Sonia Antinori. We have just now on video, and so she will work in Pristina since from 13 to 19 of February, and then she will go in Belgrade for the residency Belgrade from 20 to 25 of February. So the aim of this meeting is to introduce Sonia Antinori to other playwrights involved in this project. So I want to say thank you to Dejan, Iskra, to attend this meeting. Maybe there is also Ivana Apostolova from Skopje, but I don't see the other playwrights involved in the project. I asked to Sonia as well to other playwrights involved in the project to invite some critic or director or actress who played her texts. So tonight we have Daria Lippi. She will accompany Sonia in this speeching. The next meeting will be on 3rd of February. The other one on 24th of February with other playwrights involved in the project. So I think we can start with Sonia. Maybe Rossella want to say something?
Yes. Hello, everybody. I'm very happy to see you here. And I would like to ask you if you can write your name and your surname in the chat, because we need to record the attendance. And now I will leave the floor to Daria Lippi, who will introduce Sonia Antinori.
Okay.
Hi, you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm quite honored, and I just hope that my English is good enough to say what I have to say about Sonia's writing. So I met Sonia, or I met her play Naufragium, because the actress, she wanted, that Sonia wanted to play Naufragium, that was a monologue, sent me the play to propose for directing. And I have to say, so I'm an actress and a director, but before, I mean, I'm an actress director, and I don't like very much reading theater. I like going to theater, and I find it quite boring normally. And so it's because Silvia Galerano, that is a dear friend and colleague, sent me the play that I said, okay, I will read it. And when I finished it, the first adjective that came to me was Chekhovian. So this is the first thing I'd like to say about the plays of Sonia, how Sonia writes. And I say it as an actress. Sonia knows how to build the structure of a play. What I mean is that she knows how to make a first act, a second act, a third act, and if there is one, a fourth act. She knows how to begin, how to end, and how to develop. And it's quite rare, I find, in the contemporary drama playwriting. And if I say Chekhovian, is that I felt reading the play that she was, I didn't know anything about her. And I felt that she was, as Chekhov was, someone that wrote from the stage or from the audience of the stage, but she wrote in the theater. And which is something quite important actually for an actor, because building the structure of the play is not just building the structure of the narrative or the structure of the fiction, is building the structure that will guide the spectator's attention. And when we are on the stage as actress, we know that spectators' attention is not something, it's not a continuous, it's a landscape, and it goes up and it goes down. And when as an actress you play, you act in a play where the structure is poor, you know that the 10 minutes and then the 20 minutes where, however good you play, attention of the audience is not there, and is not there because it can't be there. So the first thing I appreciated, I was struck even in the way Sonia writes, was really this: she cares, let's say it like this, she cares for spectators, she cares for the audience. She so maybe also because she is an actress, so she knows what it feels like when because of the structure of the play, we know that we have some pieces, some fragments that are inevitably lost to the audience. The second point of her writing that was very clear to me when I read the play is that she writes for orality, and this also is quite rare. The language she writes is written to be said, which makes it very pleasant to read, actually, but to read aloud or not aloud, but I mean to read. When I read what Sonia's writing, I say it in my head, and this is something again very important for an actress. Her language is has rhythm, has musicality, and has clearly aim, which is to be said. And this allows her, in my feeling, to shift from one register to another without unity to be broken, with continuity. One register to another, what I want to say is that she can write really everyday language, not language that copy everyday language, not language that say, hey, I'm everyday language, I'm contemporary, I mean, I speak like everyone else, even if we are on stage. And no, everyday language that we use, actually. She uses expressions, even expressions that I heard, some expressions that comes from some regions of Italy and other not. And at the same time, and I would say without cut, without, she can, the language can shift to a poetic, quite lyrical one. The unity being kept by the fact that the more everyday language and the more poetical one are meant to be said. And so as is the same actor or actors that say them, this is makes the unity. Her language is, when I say musicality in the play Naufragium, then that on which we worked together, I was able to make of many fragments of the text an oratorio. We were saying it as music, we were not singing, but we were maybe slamming it or rapping it, or it was something quite polyphonic. And it was possible because of the language she uses. It was an idea that came to me because of the language. The third point is what she writes about, and I was quite struck by this also, and I am still. Sonia, she doesn't write about history, recent history, politics. What I mean is, she doesn't write about it. She writes histories of people, and in their life and in the history of these people, recent history and politics are embedded as they are in our lives. And And in this way, she Naufragium is a play that made me and Silvia Galerano, the main actress, that forced us, I would say, to go dig in the history of our families and of ourselves. The play is about, let's say, the events in Italy, the political events in Italy between '68 and late '70s. And this is very tricky. I'm quite reluctant to theater plays where politics is involved, because many of them tend to send a message. It's not what Sonia does. And so Silvia and I were able to actually put our point of view about these years. That is a strong one, because both our families were quite involved. And I think that what happens is that so the spectator is also able to put in the story his point of view, which is quite important. There's not a message to be sent, and it's another rarity, actually. If I think about authors writing about politics or history. Yes, and the last thing that I'd like to say, this time more as a director, I'm also very reluctant to work. I'm sorry, I know this is not the place to say it, but I will say it, to work with contemporary authors, living authors. Well, I work in France, so it's maybe not the same thing. In France, the word, the verb is the most important in theater. I mean, the plays, on the plays of Molière, you have, it's not like a piece of theater, it's theater. We have but I'm mostly French now, but a tendency to consider the author as the artist with the capital A, which is not my position as an actress. I tend to consider the text as a material to work with, and not a piece of art that I must serve. And so the first thing I told Silvia when she said, I would like you to direct this play, was the problem is that you tell me that the author is living and she will come to rehearsal. So if I want to change something, she will say no and everything. And Silvia told me, I don't think that she will do that. And actually she didn't, she did worse. Well, she was on stage, first of all, as I was. It was a monologue, but she accepted that we do it, that we split it in three in some way. She accepted cuts, huge cuts. She even accepted add-ons. We inserted 3 scenes that had text in it that she didn't write. We wrote it, she wrote it with us, but on stage. And I proposed her to cut the end, the very end, and she accepted. I don't think she accepted because she didn't think, because she thought that the text was not good. She accepted because she saw that the plays, as we were working on it, was better without these cuts that we were making. And this is really huge. I mean, Sonia is an author that thinks, as I think, that theater is a collective piece of art when it's art. And so text participates to that, and it's not something else or a piece of art in itself, which is also quite Chekhovian. When you read Chekhov, well, you really think that you have to see it on stage, otherwise it's quite boring. So to come to an end, I think Sonia is, of all the authors I know, she is the most stage author that I know, and that's the reason why we keep working together, and we keep working together on a project that is a questioning about how do we write from stage, from action, and not make action, not starting from text to find action, but starting from action and write the text when the action is there. I think this is what I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you, Daria. So Sonia, you want to introduce yourself?
Well, first of all, I have to say thank you so much to Daria, because, well, I didn't know anything about what she was preparing about myself. So we decided not to talk about it. So I was listening with you, and I am, of course, like, you know, touched. Okay. It's funny because I tried to write something, don't to get lost, and also because of English, to be precise. And some points of Daria's speech are the same. So it's really funny. So as Daria words made clear, my experience as a playwright originated on stage. You can't believe that we didn't talk, but it's like this. I started working as an actor, because I know her and she knows me. I started working as an actress in traditional companies in the early 90s. At the time, programming in Italy was stuck on well-known titles, mostly by Italian playwrights. A lot of Pirandello and Goldoni, but of course also some Shakespeare. Contemporary authors mostly wrote comedies, many of which followed film models marked by naturalism and based on quick dialogues and characters taken from everyday life. Having studied for a while in Germany, however, I had the opportunity to see very different plays. Whose strength lay in the specificity of an extreme language and style. One of my first dramaturgical loves was the Austrian playwright Werner Schwab, whom I had the good fortune to translate into Italian with a huge effort linked to the need to reinvent his language, where high and low mixed in a poetic precipitated of great strength. But Schwab is only one of the examples. Since the 80s, authors from half of Europe were already exploring territories in which dramaturgy was playing an extremely important role in the narration of a complex time, in which the proliferation of media products was ousting theatre from its position forcing into a new definition. I have to add here that one of my beloved author, once upon a time when I was in Germany and I was reading Theater heute, was the Jan Bukowski. So I am honored to have you here, to meet you, not yet in person, but still. With a so-called anni di piombo, years of lead, in which Italy and other European countries were shattered by social turmoil and political violence, a phase of hope and idealism came to an end, replaced by the dawn of a livid and undifferentiated era in which we are still immersed up to our necks. This was precisely the theme of Naufragium, the play that Daria directed, and was the origin of our collaboration. In the years narrated in that text, I was at the beginning of my career as an actress and playwright. And naturally, so in the 80s, because the play is playing from the, 68 through the 70s to the 80s. I did not have the clear vision to understand what was happening politically and socially, because I was 20 years old. But I clearly remember a conference of new dramaturgy with Franco Quadri, a critic and animator of contemporary Italian scene, contradictory, passionate personality, who expressed a concept that would stay with me over the years. It is when you go through dark years that dramaturgy and theater take on a different role. This was what Franco said. This notion resonated in my mind when we began to record the first inconsistencies in the journalistic system, long before the advent of fake news, long before the propaganda and lack of transparency of apparent democratic governments became known. The massacres of the early 90s, the state mafia negotiation, the advent of the right wing, and the downgrading of social and trade union achievements prompted a reflection on the need for spaces where dialogues could be opened on a perhaps smaller scale, but capable of formulating an alternative thought. It was during this period that my method of dramaturgical approach
No, c'era un'infermiera che ha detto, scusa, ma com'è possibile?
was born. An extremely flexible method, which has been refined over the years, but without losing that element of elasticity that connotes it. This approach of mine, which is not based on structural rules, nor on a predefined procedure, and of which some critics, still with a view to binarism, have indicated a character of female sensitivity, actually results from stage practice. Both because of my training as an actress and my interest in teamwork, I have in fact preferred to apply my writing in frames where the text could be generated by a collaborative play with actors and director, nourished by set designers, costume designers, light and sound designers. A modus operandi that is both old and new, and that evidently responds to that redefinition of authorship formulated by the German performing studies academic Hans Thies Lehmann in his pivotal essay, Post-Dramatic Theater. In a context that questions hierarchical structures to oppose a horizontal model based on the cooperation of forces with different specifications but similar power, the 20th century contraposition between director, author, and actor is overcome by the play of a team of artists at the service of the work, in a process where listening is at the basis of an organic growth of the result. This is the reason why, even when I conduct more structured dramaturgical training courses, I propose moments of study identification with actors, and in some cases, a small group of spectators. The text, thus, stops to be the product of a fervid and, at best, excellent mind, and becomes the device generated by a collective mind. This not only allows for the creation of particularly vivid works, but also for the growth of a group's sense of belonging, motivating the actors to a presence that is not only scenic, but rather penetrated into the very fabric of the narrative. This tendency was significantly funded through my experience with the actors of Teatro 2 in Parma, with whom I worked under the direction of Cristina Pezzoli in the middle of the 90s. On that occasion, as dramaturg. The work was based on two texts by Thurton Wilder, Our Town and Long Christmas Dinner, but worked with the entire collective of actors, whose inventions were deposited in some textual fragments that contaminated the original writing, giving the two works a meaning much closer to contemporary sensibility. But what does contemporary mean? Wondering this question is essential, since what the East End of the Stage project proposes is to create a working group on the subject of environmental protection. What is the character that should connotate works that aim to portray the present with immediacy and relevance? So I was looking in the Treccani, our big encyclopedia, where critic Rodolfo Sacchettini refers to contemporary theater through a definition given by philosopher Giorgio Agamben in his 28th book, 𝘘𝐻𝐸 contemporaneo? What is contemporary? And the quotation is, he is truly contemporary who does not coincide perfectly with his time, nor conform to its demands, and is therefore, in this sense, out of date. But precisely because of this, precisely through this gap and this anachronism, he is capable more than others of perceiving and grasping his time. The expression inactual immediately reminds us to Friedrich Nietzsche. Sacchettini specifies this gap would represent the critical function, present within every work that wants to call itself contemporary. And now, how can we develop this critical function? Or what are the elements that distinguish the specificity of dramaturgical writing, contrasting it with nonfiction, for example? The question is important today when theater has found ways that are apparently close to investigative journalism in the wake of that documentary theater that has already found important expression in the 20th century, from Piscator to Peter Weiss, and which today has its best known representatives in Stefan Kegi of Rimini Protocol or Milo Rau. In this approach, it is reality that bursts onto the stage. It is the experts or certain categories of people, the unemployed, the elderly, the disabled, former dancer, even artists, but framed in their real dimension, with a narrative function that places them in the role of witnesses. In this part, the political aspect is as evident as the poetic component. The theatrical experience offered to the audience community is both cognitive, because it poses questions that in the best of cases will continue to proliferate as intellectual contamination, and intuitive, because it is generated by an aesthetic emotion. On the other hand, wanting to define the role of dramaturgy in the contemporary world, yes, it is important to reflect on the differences with other literary forms, from prose to poetry. And here I come back to the idea I presented earlier about the importance of the collective mind, behind the performance event. Theater is a community art, where the dialectical axis of the actors on stage is no more important than the so-called theatron axis, which connects stage to audience. And the happening, the becoming on stage, the sharing of the very moment, the ritual phenomenology that characterizes the theatrical experience is based precisely on this real-time communication. But this pushes us a little further with demand that communication itself be real. This search for an authentic voice has coincided in my practice with the realization that every subject matter needs a specific approach, which cannot be preordained. In this sense, I tend to treat each new work as an individual project with a system of rules and the language that has to be invented anew every time, each time. How can we create the textual materials that ground the theatrical experience in a way that makes it powerful? And what questions must we ask ourselves at a time when, thanks to internationalization processes, but also migration and technology, our audience is potentially as large as the whole world? We have here different continents participating today. With this theatrical, with which theatrical language, but also with which and how many languages should we approach the dense tapestry of culture in front of us? And what differences emerge when comparing the different perspectives of the many protagonists in this project? What urgency does the environmental issue have in our countries? What kind of sensitivity exists with regard to these topics, and how can be awakened or strengthened? Personally, the most radical experience I have had in understanding alternative ways of life in relation to environmental issues was during a 3-year residency on Easter Island. I have here 𝗓𝗣𝐿, who was with me there and who was sharing with me this period experience and thoughts, and also, well, going deeper to the culture and history of Easter Island. Rapa Nui, with the local indigenous community. The island is a privileged observatory for a discourse on environment, precisely because of its history of reckless exploitation of resources, which almost brought the island to collapse, making it emblematic. Indeed, some scientists have recognized the island as a kind of laboratory of ecological catastrophe. Easter Island confronts us with the specter of a civilization destroyed by the savage exploitation of the environment. At the same time, during my stay, I was able to experience a kind of indigenization, the so-called, thanks 𝗓𝗣𝐿, going native, in the close interpenetration between human life and the natural life of the inhabitants. Another fundamental aspect was in the observation of the capacity to understand the world that the indigenous people possesses, capable of seeing the mythical aspect beyond the everyday, for which there is no separation between inner life and outer life. That character that scholars call participation and coincides with a sense of wonder that binds the individual to the environment of which he or she is an integral part. In the workshop that I will hold during the residency in Pristina and Beograd first and Podgorica later, I would like to propose an initial investigation into this topic in the light of texts, articles, and videos that will allow for an in-depth study, also taking into consideration any previous writing experiences on of the participants on this theme. I then asked colleagues from the different organizations that the debate within the workshop framework could be augmented by contribution from local experts, academics, journalists, activists, but also artists and fellow playwrights. The first phase of data collection will be followed by extemporaneous writing exercises, which will form the basis of our collective creation process and will be presented to the public on the last day of the residency. Yeah, that's
Perfect.
it.
Thank you, Sonia. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you both,
Thank
Franco
you.
and Daria, for the introduction, and everybody for being here.
Okay, good. So if you have some question, we have less than 10 minutes more. So I'm very happy because we have a very good number of participants in this meeting. I didn't expect this number. So there is somebody with some question.
Yes, maybe I can ask one question. I come from more dance choreography, but my question is because I also believe in this joint collective work. When you speak about collaborative processes, how do you collaborate with the practice from choreography and movement? I mean, just, yeah, I'm interested to hear.
Daria could also answer because she's also a dancer. So in our collaboration, dance and movement were really very present. And well, I also started as a dancer once upon a time. For instance, I can make an example about my work with people with migratory background. I'm working a lot now in Italy, involving people coming to Italy, so new citizens. And for instance, the very first step we usually apply in our, well, not method, but practice, is precisely to work with body, because this is one language we can share without the problems of translation, without Google or whatever translator, and that everybody share, because it depends, of course, of education. Well, I was educated in classical ballet, a little different with my friends from Mali, expressing themselves with another kind of movements and gesture and so on. But this is the moment when we can build the team really through the bodies. Then we can share ideas, thoughts, intellectual, expressions and so on. But at the very beginning, it's so important. And I think the funny thing of this kind of meeting we have now after the COVID, that we can see each other. We are not in person, but somehow we see more of our inner life or private life, because we are in the different houses here, home. And this kind of becoming intimate is something which has to do with body, and also to observing our gestures, our poses, our gazes, and so on. Daria, do you want to add something?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, if there is no more question, I just
can I ask something?
Okay,
because
I was sure you will speak.
Yes, sorry to be a bit late. I was really busy. I hardly made it. I just want to say I'm Sanja from Belgrade, from 𝐜𝐵 Theater. And I was wondering, because you will come to Belgrade and we issued a call and we are already gathering participants, but what about the language? Because Of course, we would like to have as priority for all the participants to understand and to be able to express and to be able to write. Will it be an obstacle? So the workshops will be in English, isn't it?
Yes, I think this is more a question for Franco because he's the organizer of everything. We only had a little chat about it also with 𝘜𝐿 and we said that possibly some of the people of the staff is also can be there and can help as translator. Or Franco, I don't know if you thought about specialized or professional ones, but in my experience, sometimes when we work in theater, it's better really that theater people are making the translation because sometimes the professional translator get lost with the concepts. So I had an experience really close to Hans Thies Lehmann in Rome once. He was making a presentation of my translation, his book. And after a while he said, no, sorry, I can't, because the guy who was perfect, was very pronunciation great and vocabulary and so on, but he didn't catch the point. So, well, if we can help each other, I think it's very nice.
Because
yes, Franco can say what is.
Okay. Anyway, Sanya, we can talk on Monday about this topic.
Okay, I was just interested because
I'm sure we can.
It is a project that crosses boundaries, and our main tool is the words. It is not dance. I'm also mostly from dance and theater and from movement-based theater. So I can imagine there could be some issues with that, but we will try to solve it. Okay, thank you, Sonia. Thank you for your presentation also.
And Sanya, we have also a lot of tools now. I'm working with now with people from Bangladesh and Pakistan, and we have all the time these technological things up and so on, and they are translating from Urdu into Bangla, and it's really easy. So I think, well, on the Balkans will be, it's so easy. I will try to let me give all the information about these new apps from these come si dice, millennials people.
Okay, yes, good. Thanks.
Thank you. So, thank you, everybody. I just want to say that the next meeting will be on February 3rd. With Ivanka Apostolova. She invited a friend. The name is Kristina Paseva-Dinovska. I'm not sure.
Kristina Peseva-Dinovska, yes.
Okay, okay. So we see you at 5 of February 3rd. Okay? Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you to all the friends, the personal friends I see here. Ciao.
Ciao a tutti.
Thank you, Sonia.